Hello, today we're going to review the quadratic formula. We've already learned this once, but we're just going to go over it again. And particularly, this video is going to focus on quadratic equations with real rational roots. And what that means is we're thinking like whole numbers or fractions, or decimals that can be written as a fraction. That's the types of answers we should get today. We're just going to dive right in. So as a quick reminder, the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And our first step is to make sure that our equation equals 0, and it does. Then we have to identify a, b, and c. So a is the value that is with x squared. So a equals 2. B is the value that's with x when there's nothing there. Remember, it's a 1. So b equals positive 1. And c is the value that does not have a variable. So c equals negative 6. So now we can just substitute each of these numbers into our formula and simplify. That's all it takes this time. All right, so x equals negative b, and b is 1, plus or minus the square root of b, which is 1, squared, minus 4 times a is 2, times c is negative 6. And remember, anytime you substitute a number in for a letter, put parentheses around it. All divided by 2 times a, which is 2. Now we're just going to simplify, and I like to look at it in 3 sections. So I'm going to simplify this, and simplify this. So first we're going to get this negative 1 is just negative 1. And then we have plus or minus the square root. We're going to square this number, so we get positive 1. And then we're going to multiply these together. So negative 4 times 2 times negative 6 is going to give us positive 48. So we have 1 plus 48 under the radical. And then 2 times 2 on the bottom is 4. So then when we simplify another step, we're going to simplify what's under the square root. So we have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 49, all divided by 4. And then the square root of 49 is 7. So negative 1 plus or minus 7 divided by 4. So since we have plus or minus, that means we have 2 values. So we're going to split this into 2 scenarios. The first one is negative 1 plus 7 over 4. And then the second one is negative 1 minus 7 over 4. So in the first one, we're going to get 6 over 4, which reduces to 3 halves. That's going to be part of our answer. And then in the second part, we are going to get negative 8 over 4, which reduces to negative 2. And that is the second part of our answer. So x can equal negative 2 or positive 3 halves. If you think you've got the hang of this, you don't have to watch the entire video, but I did do all of the odd problems just to help you in case you get stuck. The even ones you will do by yourself. You have to complete all 10 problems for full credit. Okay, so the first step again is to make sure that our equation equals 0. Right now it doesn't, so we need to move this negative 3 over to the other side. And in order to do that, we have to add 3 because that's the opposite of subtracting 3. So add 3 to both sides. That makes this equal 0. And the 3 doesn't combine with anything, so we just get 8x squared minus 14x plus 3 equals 0. Now that we have this, we can identify a, b, and c. A equals 8, b equals negative 14, and c equals 3. And then we'll just plug those into the quadratic formula. Once again, it is x equals negative b, which is negative 14, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 8, and c, which is 3, all divided by 2 times a, and a is 8. Now let's simplify. The first part is going to change negative 14 is positive 14. Two negatives make a positive. Plus or minus, negative 14 squared is positive 196. And then when we multiply these all together, we get minus 96. All divided by 2 times 8, which is 16. Then we're going to simplify what's under the square root, and we get 14 plus or minus the square root of 100 over 16. And then the square root of 100 is 10, so we get 14 plus or minus 10 over 16. Again, split this into two scenarios where we have 14 plus 10 over 16, and then we have 14 minus 10 over 16. The first one is going to equal 24 over 16, which will give us 3 halves. And the second one is going to equal 4 over 16, which will give us 1/4. So the two values x can equal are 3 halves and 1/4. Number 5. On number 5 and 6, I forgot to put the equal sign in there. So you can just write in equals 0 and go from there. So, let's see here. A is going to equal 2, B equals 17, and C equals 36. And we're going to plug those in. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So when we simplify, we get x equals negative 17 plus or minus the square root. 17 squared is 289. And when we multiply the 4ac all together, we get minus 288. All divided by 4 equals negative 17 plus or minus the square root of 1 over 4. And the square root of 1 is just 1, so we get negative 17 plus or minus 1 over 4. And we split this into two scenarios, negative 17 plus 1 over 4 and negative 17 minus 1 over 4. So this one will give us negative 16 over 4, which just equals negative 4. And the second one gives us negative 18 over 4, which is going to reduce to negative 9 halves. So our two values for x are negative 4 and negative 9 halves. Once again, we're going to have to move some things around because we need our equation to be equal to 0. So this is a positive 6x, and we need it to be moved across the equal sign, so we will subtract 6x. And it can't combine with this because that's x squared, and it can't combine with this because there's no x's. So we just get 9x squared minus 6x minus 3. And I put it in the middle just because that's the proper order for these equations, equals 0. And that tells us A is going to equal 9, B is going to equal negative 6, and C is going to equal negative 3. So when we substitute these in, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times, that's a 9 because a is 9, times c is negative 3. All divided by 2 times a, which is 9. And simplify, x equals positive 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 plus 108, all divided by 18, which simplifies again to 6 plus or minus the square root of 144, all over 18. The square root of 144 is 12. You can find these out by using a calculator. And that's going to give us 6 plus or minus 12 over 18. We split it into two scenarios, 6 plus 12 over 18 and 6 minus 12 over 18. The first one is going to give us 18 divided by 18, and that equals 1. The second one is going to give us negative 6 divided by 18, which reduces to negative 1/3. So our answers or our solutions for x are 1 and negative 1/3. And our last example is already in the form that we need it to be in. So we're just going to start with identifying a, b, and c. A equals 1, b also equals 1, and c equals negative 6. So let's plug them in. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. So when we reduce this, we get negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared is 1 plus 24 all over 2, which is negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 2. And then the square root of 25 is 5, so negative 1 plus or minus 5 over 2. Then break that down into two scenarios, negative 1 plus 5 divided by 2, and negative 1 minus 5 divided by 2. The first one gives us positive 4 over 2 equals 2. The second one gives us negative 6 over 2 equals negative 3. Our two values are 2 and negative 3. Thanks for hanging out. Go and finish all 10 problems. Have a great day.